Good afternoon, good evening, LinkedIn friends, HubSpot Nation. Welcome to a new series of Let's Build Communication with Clemen. How you doing, man?
Doing good, doing good. Exciting first episode, and
I know.
I'm really looking forward for a lot of different topics, a lot of different ways how that can evolve. Um, and I'm sure
Yes,
in whichever direction we'll go, it should be useful and at least
yeah,
thought provoking for each and everyone.
yes. Let's say entertaining at the very least. Um, but we like to bring in the experts and the work you've been doing with emails and sales communication. I've been meaning to do this with you for a while. But communication, like before we dive in, I would love for you to share a little bit of the journey that you shared with me, because in a sense, this is a new form of communication that you maybe haven't tried yet. And after you share that journey, we'll kind of, you know, compare it to some of the usual communications that we're used to talking about when it comes to CRM and prospects and sales, and maybe how they can start to like come together.
Yeah, definitely. Um, Maybe the best is if I go a year and a half, 2 years back, where we were having a outbound lead generation company focused to pharma market. So it was a company focused to niche specific market. Basically, there are 5,000 ish pharma companies and 5,000 vendors selling those companies. So we were kind of matchmaking those two. So we were always seeing as, okay, this is small enough that we can do with pure cold outbound, even for our own go-to-market strategy. So we've been always doubling down on that. But at some point, when we decided to start building Celestial, I realized, okay, if we're going to a broader market, I need to communicate in a different way. So I decided to just go out of my comfort zone, go do something that I never did, build real audience connections on LinkedIn. So I started learning, thinking about how to engage, how to build real human connections on LinkedIn. Really decided to deep dive into HubSpot community a bit more than a year ago, beginning of last year. On one side, I started doing a lot of HubSpot Academy courses to just learn as much as I can, as fast as I can. Connected with a lot of HubSpot experts, solution partners, users, just asking questions, nothing more. And on the other side, I decided to be just supportive to each and everyone. So I know I have now 30 minutes every day blocked for LinkedIn engagement and activities on my calendar. And I just during that time I just comment, engage, support people, communicate, respond DMs and everything except connections. And out of that, I really managed to build out a good network of people that I can ask for feedback, for support, for brutally honest support on what we're building, on what are the challenges. And I'm on one side really thankful for each and everyone being open and talk, but on the other side I'm also really here to support great creators, great efforts. And then this is the kind of the communication bits and pieces I think will survive with that AI age, if you will. And then of course we'll go into how AI can help and do a better job of communication, but making real human connections is for now proved to be the right path forward.
Yep.
Even though we are AI first company and we're going that way, but yeah, communication one to one, human to human is just so important.
Right. And that's where I think like we need another level of clarification probably. Like when you say AI first, so I would like to get back to the journey a little bit, but since you said AI first, that can mean different things to different people. So I'm curious for you, as we have AI first over here and the necessity of human connection over here, like how do you think about AI first?
From building a company, I see that I'm a pharmacist by training, so I'm not a coder. So maybe my perspective on AI first might be different to people who can code. But from my perspective, from building a company, for building a software, is first thing how you can tackle that with AI, how you can help, how you can save time, how you can do that. If a computer can do it, let the computer do it. Don't try to hire. Don't do it on your own. And then from a software perspective that we're building, a lot of UX can be way better with AI support. So you can guide people, you can help them do meaningful stuff, unlock their creativity, level them up with the technology. And then the interface can be completely different if you're thinking from AI first. A year and a half, the first, now we're in Celestial 3.0 version. Celestial 1.0 was let's build a CRM from scratch with AI first in mind. That was,
Uh,
the
and this was before vibe coding was a thing. So literally from
that
scratch.
was yeah, it was a year and a half ago or even more. Was initial idea for Celestial was because of everything we saw from building an outbound agency. We said, okay, there should be a way if we from scratch design a CRM that can do, no one should do any admin task anymore. Everything should be automated. People should focus on building the communication relationship, having conversations with people instead of doing admin work, filling out information, sending follow-ups, and then building them. So that was initially the idea of Celestial. We of course in a year and a half changed the path significantly, but that was kind of AI first mentality we started off, and I think we keep following it from all the different levels.
Right. Um, and in theory, that would give you time to do things like uh, this first post, the first time I became aware of you. I want to ask how long it took you, like, to put together this carousel post from, I think it was April. Was it April of last year?
Yeah.
It was a month or two after I had started doing Let's Builds, and this random dude from other side of the world like creates a carousel of 31 LinkedIn experts. And so the carousel part is key, like, because anybody can just list like it and just tag a bunch of people, right? But the carousel, the design, like clearly you put some thought into it. And that's where it's like, okay, he's not just trying to tag people for exposure. Like there's actually some, when you say support others and support the community, like there's very obvious examples of how you do that. And this was one of them. And just like uh real outcomes on the other side for somebody like me who's on that list and my follower count like spikes that day and I get connections. Um but that making space for that kind of stuff, I think is what I think about when I hear AI first and AI enablement and like doing all the other things so that we can put time into those creative things. How long did that first uh, post take you to put together?
I don't know the exact number, but more than I initially thought of. Uh, obviously, primarily because it was my kind of first gathering of experts that I want to follow and learn from. So I was kind of a newbie to the HubSpot community. So I had to search for who is who. So that as you said, a random dude from Slovenia is posting a random list of 30 people. It wouldn't make sense. So I had to put do some research. Who is who? If I put those 30 people, no matter who I don't mention, those 30 should be a valid list of those 30 experts that everyone else trusts, so that I can show some credibility that I invested my thoughts and time in doing that. So primarily it was a research, and then I was from a format point of view, I was looking for how to do it in a way that it's not just a list of people you tag and how did they respond, but being supportive. I wasn't even thinking what will come out of that. My initial thought was, okay, maybe if I get to talk with anyone on that list, that's fine. I mean, this is my entry point to talking to at least one person on that list. If I can earn that with that effort, that was fine for me. So yeah, that was kind of my thought process, and I thought, putting faces with names on top of the tags of people might help do some initial engagement, and then invite people to invest, tagging some others, so we can have a serious communication. The last one really took off. I just beginning of yesterday morning, I started going through my last post and compiled the whole list of people who were tagged. Now I have 141 people that were
Nice.
tagged by others, and I'm trying to figure out in what format that I should put for others to find it meaningful, and for myself, in the best way, again, to support others, but also for every other person who is I've been sharing now that post for a while. When I see people asking, hey, who should I follow? I'm new to HubSpot community. Hey, this is the list. I can vouch for it. I talked with most of those there, and I can guarantee you those are the experts you should follow, and you will learn from them on LinkedIn because they're active here and they're sharing valuable resources and they're sharing their knowledge. But still, now is a list of 30 people, and then another 110 people are tagged somewhere in the comments. So going for that is not as useful and as easy to skim through as it should be. So I need to figure out another way, and tagging 140 people in a post, again, it's not going to work.
Yeah. No, you can't. LinkedIn won't allow that. But it's so interesting because I think it does relate to the what we're trying to talk about today. Because the outcome was, if I'm hearing you right, I want to have a conversation like with any of these people on this list. And to do that, you brought value, like without anybody asking you to, without any guarantee like of an outcome. You're like, hey, I know that there's a higher likelihood that this person will feel like this is valuable, in some way, whether it's a bunch of connection requests, whether it's the notification, and now you see all these people commenting. Because I'll be honest, I had no idea who you were, and it didn't matter. Like I already had some trust with you, like because you're cool enough to do this post and put the time in, like you say, to do it. And this effort to be like, you know, consistent and do the research and know that like it's a valid group of people. But also like I always tell George, like, I'm sorry I'm on the same list as you when you've been doing it for 12 years and I've only been doing it for a few months. But the reality is, as the user base explodes, there's people that we run into that don't know who George B. Thomas is either.
Yeah.
Right. So even for him, like he sees a lot of value there. Um, Now for you, how like take us through how much easier it becomes for you to get these conversations that you're looking for.
It definitely does now. After a year of being active, now when I reach out to people, make a connection request, and I'm not approaching with any sales conversation. I'm just kind of, hey, let's connect with each other. Always great to connect with a fellow HubSpot user or enthusiast or whatever. And when people accept a connection, I get a response. Yeah, I'm following you for a while. I've been seeing your posts. Thanks for sharing. Always great to connect with with a HubSpot expert. So this opens up a whole new level of communication with people I don't know. Even when I'm doing kind of cold outreach, it's far from being cold because they at least somehow noticed me on their feed on LinkedIn. So they're more or less happy to connect and chat through DMs and yeah, with some I'm able then to communicate further through Zoom and elsewhere.
Yeah. So let's dig into that, because I think that like it's never cold. Like just that phrase, like if you could put any salesperson or anybody that's customer facing that's trying to get a conversation could say that, like what a beautiful world that would be for those people. Like you know that either the value you provide to the community because you're so active is right around the corner in case they don't know you. But most often they've like seen you all over LinkedIn, right? And then now at least we're opening the email. We don't care what it says. It's like, oh, Klemen, let me see, right? And I think
Yeah.
that's where the targeting, like the messaging, like until you reach that kind of break point of, like we talk about this a lot with Rob on Let's Build GTM, like there's this element of like, if you're not around me enough, like, and you're too good at targeting me, I don't know who you are. Like I'm worried now. Like like there's a lack of trust, and it's a surprising dynamic of like, what do we spend our time doing, right? When we're really trying to reach this group of people who we definitely do not know and have not asked us to reach out to them.
Yeah.
Right. So
I,
when you were like, how did this, I imagine it took some time for you to understand that was happening, like one, but like, so maybe compare like the early outreach to what happens now, knowing that you've done the work to bring value and build some trust like in the ecosystem.
I definitely see a value in all the efforts I put into all the activities. Of course, probably every week I question myself, is it still worth it? I mean, I need to dedicate a lot of time, a lot of brain power for every comment that. So I'm not doing generic, no AI comments, no generic engagements on any post, which means I need to read the post. I need to think about a response. I need to write a whole response. So it's mental power that I need to invest into that. So it's in a way it's exhausting, but I think it's rewarding, and it's worth doing it. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I remember.
every DM I have with people, I've been invited to podcasts that I'm sure I wouldn't a year ago be invited to. I have conversations with people. Now I get people reaching out to me. Hey, I'm consulting a HubSpot user, and they asked me to help them improve the conversion of their sequences and workflows. Can you help? I mean, what exactly does your platform do? Can you help me bring your system into my proposal for them to help them? All that is because of all the engagement, because I know I started connecting with those people we had yams, we had conversations, we had live conversations, and now that is materializing. Of course, it's not gonna convert into a real business tomorrow, but that trust and relationship that I'm building, I think it's definitely worth the
Yeah.
effort.
Now that you mention it, I remember it wasn't just those posts at the beginning. Like you were leaving fairly well thought out comments on a lot of the Let's Builds that I was doing, and I was seeing you do it in other places too. So it was definitely like, man, this guy is like, he's really serious about this engagement. I'd never seen anybody engage at that level before. So super interesting to hear there wasn't any AI tools in the mix. But it never came off as AI either, right? Like there was, you can definitely tell now when somebody's just regurgitating whatever the initial post is. Um, and it was again as somebody on the other side of that, like couldn't help. Like there was no way to see it as like a negative, like negative points or negative value. Like it was always building. Um, and like that's why when we were talking about this show, like what you wanted to talk about, because it's let's build blank with Klemen in this case, and it's got to be something you're passionate about, and hopefully it has to do with HubSpot. And you talked about helping people with emails, and I was like, yeah, that's okay, but like really what you're helping people with is, and also have an expertise about, is communication and like all its forms, because I think the part that people struggle with is they might put so much time into email and like really nail it, like from a messaging standpoint, let's say as much as you can right now, but then they don't show up like anywhere else. And that in itself is like a trust gap, right?
Mhm.
Let alone if you're showing up differently, like in these other places, right? Um, so I know I've kind of been rambling a little bit, but I want your help uh, in email, like as a channel, like how, because we've had some conversations like offline about this. Most people know how I feel when it comes to email, when we're talking about communication, conversation, connection with human beings. Like I think we have a lot of other channels that are built for that. But it's a hard habit to quit. What is your how do you help people with email and the strategy around email right now?
Good and tough question. The main and primary reason is email as a channel changed a lot in the past years, and I can really confirm that from when we started our Legion agency. It was February 2022, basically a month before COVID started. And the world before COVID was completely different. So the first change for the email as a channel was COVID, because we were all home alone, with email as initially the primary channel of communication. So the volume of communication in the email increased at that time a lot. And then 5, 6 years ago, um, setting up the infrastructure for sending a lot of emails was not an easy job. You had to understand how to set up, email infrastructure, how to set up everything. As a typical, salesperson, you were not able to do it. Now, 5 clicks and $10, and you have 100 domains and 100 inboxes at your fingertip, waiting for you to send thousands of emails.
Ugh.
And then you only need ChatGPT to so that
Oh man, my worst nightmare, man.
yeah. So and that is now possible, which was not 5 years ago. And because of that, email as a channel is now completely different. And then all the spam filter changes from Outlook, September, October last year happened, which is making hard for even the right one-on-one communication for people being in Outlook is challenging to get email being in the inbox, in the primary inbox, being sent through the spam filter. So from that perspective, technical, if I can say, perspective, email changed a lot, which means now we're talking about completely different level of complexity. And on the other side, for us using email, we have different spam filters in our head, what we expect, what we want. I would say smell from far above every irrelevant email that when we're just a person on a list, someone's target list, and then we just ignore all that if it even comes to our inbox. So my view here is, for email to make it work, it needs to be first super relevant. It doesn't need to be personalized. So personalization and relevance are two completely different things. So it first needs to be relevant. I will open an email if it's relevant for me. I don't need to see that, hey, I noticed you've been with Scouts for 10 years and, this is personalized email, but it's completely relevant for me, because why would I care? But if you're saying, okay, you as a sales leader in an organization, can I help you increase the conversion rate or ROI of your webinar by 3x? It can be a completely generic email, but super relevant for me. Then I will pay attention, at least read it and consider it before I archive it or delete it. So the relevance is now more important than ever. And of course, combined with personalization, it helps much more. So what we're now trying really to do is how to use AI to help you write those much better emails, so you can make people to read them, and that you can afford to write those types of emails. I've been talking with a lot of people using email as a communication channel, and I always ask them, okay, something is what you do now, and I'm sure it's far from being optimal to what you would desire to do if you would have an unlimited time, or let's say you have an hour for every follow-up email, for every email that you send. What would you do? If you can tell me that, AI will do that for you, so you can actually do that. So let's say you have an hour for the next follow-up that you want to it can be with your customer, with your prospect, with your co-worker. If it's for someone that you are trying to engage and have a business with, you would most likely go to their LinkedIn profile to see what they're talking about, go on their press releases of a company if they recently received funding, or if they're on a conference, or if you're selling something around webinars, you want to check when was their last webinar, when is the next webinar planned, do they even do webinars? So does it make sense to send out? I mean, I'm getting now emails, do you need help with accounting for US company, or for a company in somewhere where we don't have that company? I mean, sorry, I don't need that.
Yeah.
So you would do a research, and not only at the company level, but even at the personal level. If
Right.
I'm going to a conference, if you relate to that, yes, I'm listening at least, and doing all that research, and even more importantly, combine it with what you have in your CRM. This is where you can stand out from the crowd in the inbox. You can you can use any of the cold outreach tools available. They all use the same data, your LinkedIn profile, let's say, and the company website. they use the same AI models. So it's only a slightly different change, maybe in a word or two, that one can do to be different regardless of what tool you use. But if you combine that with your information within the CRM, you have maybe a transcript of your last conversation, or you know what they asked you, or what form they filled out. You can understand where their interest is, so you can relate to that, which no one else can because they don't have that information. And that's combining, publicly available information that everyone else can with your internal data within the CRM, combining all those two worlds together with AI, and on top of that, use your marketing materials, whatever you already have. If you fuse all that with AI, that's how I believe AI can really help you do a better communication. You can be relevant with each and every email that you send. And if you can be super focused, you can show people that you care, that you listen, that you have understanding of where they are, what they care about, what they told you. I'm tired of first getting a 15 minutes with an SDR asking me a bunch of questions, and I get to the real demo, and they ask me the same questions
Oh my
again.
God.
Uh,
Yeah.
I guess we've all been on those calls.
Yeah. Tomorrow morning we're talking
Yeah.
about the qualification trap on Value First. Somebody's got to qualify the leads, Klemen.
I
Oh
know.
man. Like,
I
and
know.
as you say that, like it really only takes a few words, like sometimes one, to completely change like how I will view the email. Like if I know there's no way in hell that like you must know, you must have watched a piece of content. Like that's honestly anybody out there, if you're trying to get my attention, the first question I'm going to ask you is, okay, which exactly the content did you see? Right? You tell me you love my expertise, right? And then they just grab something else from my profile and copy paste, right? But if you could pick like one episode, and pick one word from it, like bam, you're in. Like I'm listening, right? And that data is all over our CRM, all over our calls, and that's where like I love the way you're putting it because that's 95% of the work, maybe 99% of the work can be done by AI, right? To build that and to say you should be sending to this person at this time, and here's the email, and then just have AI. Like, are we at the point where AI is like, I'm not going to send this until you change this thing? Like, because that
Uh,
AI coachability of
yeah.
like, I'm waiting for that, where it's like we're using AI tools and then we try to send like the spammiest of emails, and almost like HubSpot did in the early days and still does. It's like, okay, you're clearly this is a purchase list. We're just shutting it down right now. We're not going to send this email out because you don't know any of these people. Um, Getting to that point, with AI, because I did want to ask, like, so it sounds like we can agree that email as a channel takes significantly more work to create value from than it has in the past,
Yeah.
right? And at which point, especially for new businesses, like, are we weighing that work to be done and the value coming back from it against the other channels available to us? Like you mentioned in that scenario where you go onto LinkedIn and you do the research and you see that they had a webinar, and then you might see that they post every day. And then you're going to come back to email, like to try and reach out to this person, or should you just engage in one of their posts, get a connection immediately, and start that conversation? Right? That's a big part of how Profoundly's launched. Like we're building an email list because it's what you do, like with newsletters, and we got a community. But our initial group of pros in a LinkedIn network, sum of like 125,000 like people, right? And it's a choice to just use a completely different channel to try and communicate with the market. That, like, how do you try to help people like understand, like, hey, maybe email is not right, like for you in this moment for your business?
For now, we're not there yet as a business.
Right.
I do that for my own. Um, for now, most of the cold outreach I do, 99% is via LinkedIn first. So I start engaging, I make a connection request, I start communicating via DMs. When we agree to have a call or to move to email as a channel, we have the communication there. But if someone is not responding to me to my first follow-up email, I will send a second follow-up email, but I will also go to LinkedIn, send a DM, like a few of their posts, comment on their posts if they're posting, if they're engaging there, to on one side ask for a response by email, but on the other side also support you to engage with you there, to show you, I do care. I believe we can work together. We can help. So I'm not here to just take all the money from you and gone. But I'm here to build trust, to build relationship, to see, to show you that I care. And as I said, yeah, combining channels is super important. And that's how you can, I think, still very well leverage email as a channel. The beauty of email is it's way easier to manage than LinkedIn DMs. And a lot of internal communication and a lot of documents being sent are still on email. So people are still using email. It's just, as you said, much harder to engage via email. But email as a channel, for now, it stays and it's used. Everyone has an email, where not everyone has a LinkedIn profile, or not everyone is active on Slack channels and communities, or on WhatsApp, or whatever channel. Most of the people are on email, and we use them more or less throughout our day. But no, every executive has his own email and is active in emails. Of course, it's much harder to get their attention by email only and so forth. But email as a channel is a valuable channel to get in front of people and communicate. But the environment, as we discussed, changed a lot. So you
Right.
need to do it differently.
Yeah. And I think that's the key at the end of the day. And like when you think about a company like HubSpot, and if you're familiar with the platform, like just the motion it's had to not rely on marketing automation emails so much, and the more and more transactional stuff we're able to do through Commerce Hub, and even some of the sequencing related to like service and sales hub. It's like, okay, I'm already in in most of the best cases I've heard, like I'm already in, there's already some trust. Like now we sit in this channel where like it's no longer I have to earn trust in a channel not designed for it, right? And that's where I think if you can take a step back, it makes so much sense to where it's never meant to be this conversational, style of channel where because I asked myself, I opened some emails, like believe it or not. But I always, when I'm not expecting it, when it's a brand new email that I don't know the person and I decide to open it, I'm always asking myself, why did I just do that? Like, um, and that's where, like, in that moment, like, I might still go to LinkedIn after seeing that person, like, and liking what they say, because it's just a conversational way that I might miss the next email. Like, we don't have as much control over our inboxes as we used to. Like, we get busy, and that's where I think the timing element, and the thing that you've been describing about showing up, engaging, right? I think is more and more important that some people can miss because even when I want the email, uh, it's the difference between on Monday, I'm in sales mode and the sales email built for me, I'm going to open it. But on Tuesday, I'm not feeling that pain right now. I'm thinking about something else and I see it and it
Yeah.
just like flies right by, right? That's where there's an element of like LinkedIn and any kind of direct messaging thing, right? Is it's just a different type of engagement where I think if your focus, especially if you're new in a market, is to build trust, right? That
Mm.
is far and away for me like um, a much more valuable thing to spend time on. Like if we're starting from scratch, we have no email list. Uh, that's the thing. We might not have an email list. We always have a network
Yeah.
of some sort, right? So that's why I love these shows, man. I don't always think about this ahead of time, but as we, talk about all this stuff, like this is a big challenge for people right now. But at the same time, we see LinkedIn, billion people on that platform, maybe 5 to 10% if we're lucky, like active on it.
Yeah.
So a gold mine, no matter, I don't care who you are, like no matter what industry you're in, there are lurkers on LinkedIn, right?
That always will be.
And just test it out, right? Like if you got a trade show coming up, you're going to see people in person. Uh, you know, post a little bit and see if they tell you about it at the show.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's the only way you're going to get, right? Because they are used to seeing it via email. And I got to mention Alexander here. Nico might not like this, but I'm all about it. I love this vibe streaming, right? We go where we need to go in these conversations. Appreciate you, man, so much. As we start this series, what do you hope to accomplish for everybody that might be watching? Why should they watch us talk about communication every Tuesday?
Because the landscape is ever changing, and we all need to think, how to better communicate with the audience, whoever that audience is. Your coworkers, your customers, your customers to be, the whole network, and with everything that is happening, with all the tech advancements and AI and everything, basically, how you communicate is changing. So at least for myself, I can say, I'm always thinking how to change my way of communication for the better, to build better connection with someone. And then discussions like that, I see them valuable for someone to think about that. If we can make one person every Tuesday to think about how to better communicate, regardless of a channel, regardless of with whom, but if we can just help someone start thinking about that, this will this is for me goal achieved.
I am 100% aligned, my friend, and that's why we started. This has been awesome, and I'm glad we could finally get it started.
Yeah.
I look forward to chatting with you every Tuesday, man.
See you next Tuesday, Chris. That was
Have
really, really interesting. Thank you for
Yeah.
starting that.
Oh, my pleasure. And if you're out there and you're thinking about emails or LinkedIn or any of your communications, maybe your last one, think about your last communication exchange that you had with somebody you didn't know, what you liked, what you didn't like. Find those opportunities and let's grow. Have a great day, everybody.
See ya.